Welcome to the Deep Dive, powered by the Sand Science Experience, where we explore the latest and most exciting papers and preprints in science. Before we get started today, please take just a second to like this deep dive and subscribe. It really truly helps support the Sand Science Experience. Okay, so let's unpack this. Imagine if the key to understanding how we diagnose diseases, maybe even spotting early signs of cancer, came from, well, a pigeon. Today we're diving into some really fascinating research. It shows these birds, pigeons, can actually be trained to interpret complex medical images, specifically relating to breast cancer pathology and radiology.
Yeah, and what's really intriguing here, I think, is how these studies shed light on the very nature of visual diagnostic stills. What features are critical? How do we actually learn to see medically important information? It gives us key insights, not just into birds, obviously, but into human perception, too.
Got it.
So our mission today is to explore how these feathered friends performed on tasks usually reserved for highly trained medical pros, and what their successes and struggles really tell us.
Okay, so pigeons. Most people probably think, cities, squares, statues, not exactly high-tech medical labs.
Exactly.
But they have this incredible visual discrimination ability, right? They can tell human faces apart, even paintings by Monet versus Picasso.
They really do. It's quite remarkable.
So here's where it gets really interesting. Researchers wondered, could these birds actually apply those visual smarts to medical images? Something so specialized.
That was precisely the question, and they put it to the test. In the first big experiment, pigeons were trained to tell the difference between benign and malignant breast tissue on digitally scanned slides, histopathology.
Okay. How do they do?
Amazingly well, actually. They learned surprisingly fast, reaching high accuracy. We're talking around 85%. And this was across different magnifications, too, like 4x, 10x, 20x.
Wow.
But crucially, it wasn't just memorizing the training set. They could generalize this learning to completely new images they hadn't seen before.
So demonstrating real learning, not just recall.
Exactly. True understanding of the visual patterns. It suggests genuine pattern recognition is possible, even with, very different brain structures compared to ours.
That's incredible. Did they try combining the pigeons' judgments, like the sort of flock sourcing?
They did. And get this, when they pooled the judgments from just 4 pigeons, the group accuracy jumped to an astounding 99%.
99%.
From pigeons.
99% is pretty wild. They also look at image quality. So color information seemed to help with generalization, but it wasn't absolutely essential. And even image compression, which initially hurt their accuracy, they could adapt to that with more training. Learn to sort of see past the artifacts.
Interesting.
And maybe the most fascinating detail, the images the pigeons struggled with the most. They were often the same atypical examples that human pathologists also find challenging.
No way.
Yeah.
So that suggests they might be picking up on similar visual cues.
It really seems like a similar visual bottlenecks, maybe?
Right.
Okay, so that's pathology, looking at tissue slides. What about radiology? Like mammograms, that seems even tougher.
It definitely is tougher, and the results were more mixed, which frankly isn't that surprising given how hard these tasks are for humans too.
Right.
So for detecting microcalcifications on mammograms, those tiny little white specks that can be an early sign of cancer, the pigeons are actually pretty successful. They hit around 70–80% accuracy.
Okay, still pretty good. Maybe that plays into their natural skill for finding tiny things like seeds.
That's a good thought. It could be related to that kind of visual search. But the really difficult task was looking at mammographic masses and classifying them as benign or malignant.
I can imagine. Those can be very subtle.
Extremely subtle. And here, the pigeons really struggled. They took weeks just to learn the training images. And the critical part, they completely failed to generalize to new images of masses.
So they just memorized the specific examples they were shown?
It strongly suggests that, yes, memorization, not extracting those general features needed for diagnosis, which, mirrors the difficulty even human radiologists face with these really nuanced cases. True diagnostic skill needs that generalization to any new case.
Okay, so summing this up, what does it all really mean?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, these studies show that pigeons can serve as a really interesting animal model. They're cost-effective, reproducible, adaptable for studying human medical image perception.
How so?
We could potentially use them to help validate new imaging technologies or maybe test image processing tools, and perhaps most importantly, help identify which specific visual features are truly critical for making a diagnosis.
Right, like what are we really seeing?
Exactly. What are the subtle, maybe even subconscious cues that expert humans are picking up on, and how can we understand that better to improve things?
So here's a thought then. What if the insights we gain from these, well, surprisingly clever birds could actually help us train the next generation of human pathologists and radiologists? Maybe make their incredibly tough job just a little bit clearer, a bit more effective for all of us in the end.
It's a provocative idea, definitely. Using insights from animal perception to refine human expertise.
Remember to like this deep dive and subscribe to the deep dive for more explorations into the cutting edge of science. This has been the deep dive, powered by the Science Experience, and we'll catch you next time.